But
So wait, so we started?
yeah,
Is it it?
we
rolling?
we rolling, we going.
Oh,
We good
wow.
to go.
All right.
Yeah. But I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, I mean, I guess the whole, the big topic of conversation these days is tech and where that can take us, how that can help us.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I get started by, how did you get started with Tech Beach for those that may not know the origins of you and the big event Tech Beach retreat?
Yeah.
I mean, tell us a little bit about how that came about, but more from the perspective of your start in tech.
Yeah, man. So my start in tech came from the fact that, well, baseline, I did my undergrad in aerospace engineering. All right, most people don't know that. I don't talk about it really because I never spent any time in industry. And so from the time I was in my second semester in university, I started my first tech company. That would a website that allows students to buy and sell items from each other. And I made $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And in university, if you're making that kind of money,
You're set.
yeah, it was between me, my brother, another co-founder, and we're known as the entrepreneur guys in school. And so when university was finished, I came back home and I started this next company called First. And that's what people really began to know me for. And First was between myself, my brother, and my two best friends from CIC, and we were one of the first companies to raise any sort of significant funding. Digicel invested $2 million US, so 25%. And that was a big deal. That was in 2014.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then fast forward from there, First ended up not working out. We ended up burning out the cash, not able to raise a follow-on round of funding. And my co-founder now of Tech Beach, I met him when we were expanding into Jamaica, first into Jamaica. And he approached me and he said, yo, I am working on conferences, but bringing big business to Jamaica. And I really want to do a tech version of this. Would you be open to working with me on it? And when he came to me first, we had just gotten the investment. It's like, bro, I'm not going to work on this event thing. Like I have a couple $1 million in my account. Like, this is just not what I want to work on. So he followed up again, fast forward a year. And then I said, yeah, I might have a little more time now.
Right. I mean, starting, because I remember when Tech Beach Retreat started. I remember when you all had your first event.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's grown significantly since then. And I'm assuming that a lot of the people that you've brought down, it has opened doors for a lot of people in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of stuff are you, I guess, most proud of from Tech Beach that has come from Tech Beach?
Yeah, I mean, a few very cool examples of things. One is we've become a platform for people to connect with really cool job opportunities. And so because we bring people from some of these large technology companies like Google, the Meta, the Microsoft, etc., they get connected with opportunities that would not ever be available to you had you not been in the room. And it's really important to be in the room and make that physical connection with people. So on the job opportunity side of things, I've seen some really cool things. On partnerships, I've seen some great things. On fundraising, I've seen some incredible things. Some deals happen, a couple $1 million deals happen at Tech Beach because we bring together investors, founders, large companies. And so we are that very cool meshing of the community of the important pieces to really drive business from a technology perspective. And so it's been really incredible to see over the last decade now. Oh my gosh, like started 2016, we're in 2015, so we're almost a decade into this thing.
Yeah, next year will be 10 years.
Yeah, bro.
Wow,
it's crazy.
Early congrats, but yeah, I guess what that then makes me ask is what sectors of, I guess we'll talk Caribbean wide.
Yeah.
What sectors can we benefit the most from? Not just the connections that have been made through Tech Beach, but tech in general. I mean, AI, blockchain. I mean, how can we benefit from that? How can the region tangibly benefit from those sorts of things?
Yeah, I think a bit about it on two ends. One is we need to be really aggressive on digitization of processes so that the ease of business is just so much smoother, within government and within the private sector. I don't think that we've leaned heavily enough to really make business more smooth. And then when business is smooth, money flows much more easily. Like there is a reduction in the friction of how the velocity of capital, the velocity of money flow. And when there's a reduction, friction of how money is spent, more money is spent, you know? Just very simply, just think about like taking out cash out of your pocket and spending that. And every time you spend it, you're counting that money, you're feeling the loss of that money. So from the time it's on your credit card or you're tapping your phone or you're doing whatever, like it's different. You know, that money flows a lot more smooth, a lot more quick. And so the velocity of money through the system becomes a lot greater. And so I think like if we were more aggressive there, just that velocity of capital through the system would be greater. But that's not value creation. That is just making things run so much more smooth, right?
Which is where I see a lot of the shift or the evolution can happen.
Yeah.
Where digitizing all of the, as you said, putting it pretty well, digitizing the processes in which we doing business locally or regionally. I mean, we spoke about it just before we came to set, that the low-hanging fruit of that digitizing is things like land deeds and driver's licenses. And
that's from a government perspective.
That's a public sector.
From a private sector perspective, things that I'm seeing like early stage companies coming up is like in logistics, right? So really good company that people are familiar with here locally, Food Drop. You know, they've been growing really well, quietly have become like a staple in a lot of I guess they have a segment of people that are willing to pay for that convenience and they use it regularly, you know? And so they've gone from some niche thing on the outside, pandemic happened, people really need to order, and they've continued to lean into that and really grow that business, you know? And so we're seeing that. Then there's another company called O-Deliver that was invested in public information by Term Finance and Agostini's, you know? Yeah. And they're doing really well and growing their local delivery business. And so making more robust the logistics of it. Their proposition is helping small businesses to have deliveries to home, you know, and playing that smoothening of the local logistics business, you know. We're seeing that happen. We've seen things happen as well on the fintech side of things with like WePay, right? For good, for bad, for different challenges that they might have had. They've done a job of becoming a payment facilitator in many regards, you know? And so I think there's a lot of opportunity that as a region, as investors in the region, as facilitators in the region, we need to lean into more so that these businesses that may be doing single digit tens of millions of dollars can become proper giants, right? And these proper giants then look outward of the region to say, hey, what other markets can we get into through acquisition, consolidating different businesses, and begin moving in that sort of way, you know? And so these are some of the angles that I'm seeing happening and I'm excited about.
I mean, do you think then that the hindrances are the opposite of what you just said, and that people are not willing to take the plunge? Are they scared of the technology? Are they happy with what they have, not realizing that the grass may be a little greener on the other side? I mean, what are the hindrances that you've come up to? Is it? I mean, I'm sure that there are some in the public and the private sector.
Yeah.
I mean, what have you bounced up?
I think the struggle for us in terms of seeing the velocity of growth within the technology space comes from two perspectives. My take on it, right, is one is a lack of understanding from the people that have the capital, right? They're not in environments like a New York and a San Francisco where they have brethren that have done deals, you know, like a partner that just did a deal in another tech company, and so they could advise them easily, and they come together and do this deal together, you know, and so somebody's holding their hand to navigate, getting in on the deal, supporting the deal, growing the business. And so within the ecosystem of the people that sit on the capital and do the significant deals in the region, there is a lack of understanding of how to really mitigate the risk and really shoot for the upside. And so there is a big hesitation. And so people just play within what is safe. You know, nobody's going to get fired for doing a deal that's always been done, you know?
Yeah.
But they will if they do something that don't work out. And so then that's another factor. The next factor is that we have a very low propensity for risk, you know? Nobody wants to fail. But innovation requires a series of things not going well in order to be able to find the thing that does go well. you know?
It's a good way to put it.
Exactly. And so we have a very low propensity for failure. And we see it then as this sort of like taboo thing to not do well on that deal, not do well on that investment, not do well on that thing, because you feel like it defines you. And so nobody wants to take that risk. They only want to do things that they feel like they know they're going to win at, you know? And so that sort of environment and that ecosystem is where we're from, unfortunately, and what we operate in. And innovation in new spaces requires that belly, you know?
Yeah, you can't be afraid to fail in tech. It's similar to I guess fail is always an interesting word, because in some industries, I guess it's you know, it can be looked at as pass or fail. In some industries, you know, it's not necessarily a failure; it just was not as much of a success as it maybe could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite tech initiative that can be brought to the Caribbean? What's the one thing that you've kind of heard that you said, this is, you know, significant enough that this should be all of the energy from the policymakers and hopefully the private sector, if it's that sort of initiative, goes behind something like this? What would you like to see, like, most?
By far, education. By far. Because, and what I mean by that is leaning into education at every single level, right? And so from the tertiary level to micro programs, to workshops, to conferences, to just at every level, we need to lean into saying that our people are unaware and don't understand. And by this timeline, we're going to have thousands more of people that can do this, whether it be digital designs, prompt engineering, leaning into AI in that way, and enabling our wider society to understand how to design prompts to achieve an objective, no matter what industry you're in, you know, leaning into the creative space to understand how to leverage things like Veo or leveraging GPT in certain ways, you know, and so leveraging Claude to code. Leaning in education will be absolutely transformative to the outcomes that we can create, because then you're enabling people to go back to their spaces and look at it from an entirely different lens. And now technology isn't that thing that only the computer guy does, you know, like the guy who do comp sci or something. It becomes something that we all can contribute to at varying levels, you know? And then the outcomes that we produce become so much more incredible, right? So education as a major catalyst for growth. And then the next thing for me is we need to adopt a more globally driven mindset. Realize that if we do this for our people, our ability to contribute to the global economics changes drastically. I have like a really incredible anecdotal story, right? Met this guy at an AI conference a couple months ago in Atlanta, at Trini, right? He was working in the police. And he's looking for jobs all the time online and following different content creators. And when GPT came out, he went hard learning GPT, teaching himself prompt engineering, teaching himself how to do it, and that sort of stuff. And there was this really big creator who has a marketing agency and built up a huge YouTube following, generating a lot of money on her YouTube. And she was looking for talent. And he'd been following her for a long time, contributing to her content, commenting on YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and building up a sort of like digital rapport, right? So when now she put out for these jobs, he knew about it, and his name was already in her like radar. He applied. He got the interview. The interview was, how do you create this course using generative AI only?
Right.
Created the course, got the job. The job that he has now is multiples on what he's getting, was getting working at TTPS.
Yeah.
Right? That's an anecdotal example of what is possible.
And it's really, and it's things now. It's, before it was learn to code, you know, learn to code. And then it turned into, you can code with a course on, learn to code with a course on Coursera or YouTube or whatever the case is, LinkedIn Learning. And now you don't need to learn the code, but you can learn to use the machine that can code.
Yeah.
And now you can, put yourself in a whole new perspective. I was actually seeing, you had mentioned engineering, education.
Mm-hmm.
Some people had made some chatbots, educational chatbots locally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the thing, where people are utilizing or leveraging the technology to be able to hopefully bring solutions to the studying space, the educational space. I know that pennacool.com, that
They've
website
been around for a while.
has been around for a long time. I've did some campaigns with them when I was in the social media days of my career, and great company. I love what they're doing and what they have been doing. And now it's really, there's going to be, I think, a flurry of new companies, new ideas, new solutions. And it's nice to see that it's happening already.
Yeah.
I hope that people, I guess, in a way, take it seriously and are able to put out a product that is where they have their opportunities, that hopefully the opportunities are grasped.
Yeah, man.
For the better. So,
Agreed.
I guess for me, it's education is a big one. Government processes is the next one.
Yeah.
That's where I'd like to see a lot of efficiencies come. There's no reason that we shouldn't have, where the police, I think now we're getting to that stage where the police can scan a driver's license. I'm not sure if we have that yet. I still have an old driver's license. I didn't renew mine yet. It's still valid, of course. But I want to, I think that it's about time that we get to that place where when you get off the plane,
oh my gosh,
you don't have to fill out a form, and I guess that's the low-hanging fruit in that conversation. But there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to get there. It's so it's so easy. I mean, you have boards, you have decision makers, but at the same time, these seem like very simple things that could hopefully get done and save paper, at the very least.
Well, that's what comes back to the education piece, man. All right. So the hesitation and slowness that we feel in these things happening is because at almost every level there is a lack of understanding. All right. And so when there isn't that understanding of how do you go from point A to point B, there is a hesitation. Right. And so because there is a lack of understanding, the hesitation builds. And because there is a lack of environment that accepts the iterative process, that is going to say that, hey, we're not going to get it well on the first time. There will be a sense of it didn't work so well, but we'll figure it out, which might in the interim feel like a failure, but there isn't that environment that allows people to be iterative to get to an end outcome. And so nobody wants to take the step.
Because it kind of comes down to what you were saying earlier, where if somebody does something, especially in public office, and it's not necessarily the big success that we would hope that it would be, people are afraid for that to happen, in that they end up becoming stagnant, which then brings me, not because I'm relating the two topics, but it does bring me to the Ministry of Public Administration and Artificial Intelligence. And Minister Dominic Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm very happy to see all of that happening.
Yeah.
But I want to see, you may have had conversations. What can we expect out of besides the traditional public administration side of things? But in terms of AI and artificial intelligence side of the ministry, what do you think that we can do? You have any idea of what they're looking at that you can speak about?
I'll make it clear. I don't know what to expect.
Right.
All right. I can only speak of what I'm hoping to see.
Which would be what?
All right. So to make that clear distinction.
Yeah.
All right. What I am hoping to see is so many things that I was speaking to you about earlier, which is the digitization of processes so that the velocity of transactions increases, right? So that there is that reduced level of friction. When there's that reduced level of friction, money can flow more easily, things can happen more quickly, and business grows just by the fact that things can move more smoothly.
For me, the moving quickly is and efficiently. I mean, when you think about purchasing a property and transferring a land deed, and the amount of paperwork that and manpower goes into that. When if you had let's just say, blockchain database, and you had everything on the blockchain, you can transfer things, and it could be done. Still have the courts involved, still have lawyers involved, but done in such a way more efficient process where everything's not paper and pen and paper and stamps.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I know there's a company, you may have heard of it, called Medici Land Governance.
Yeah.
MLG.
Where are they from again?
I think they're out of
They're Estonian?
I think so.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like I want to look that one.
I know that I know the guy, one of the guys, Ali, and I know Peter George is involved there as well.
Oh, you mean this is locally?
No, it's a foreign company. They were under the Medici Ventures.
Okay.
And they're trying to do they are doing the real estate on the blockchain, land deeds.
Okay.
And so
I'm seeing their website here, man.
So they're companies, I think, that can already set up, that can just swoop in and
plug in.
And yes, exactly. It's almost like a plug and play.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the I guess the public sector, the traditional red tape, is either going to allow that to happen or take their time.
Oh man, exactly. So what I'm hoping to see is just becoming really aggressive on digitization of government processes across the board, and I think the government is going to need to decide what is their low-hanging fruit, what are the things that can get done really quickly and build momentum to much more difficult things. However they prioritize that, that's what I'm hoping to see, and just see it more aggressively, because I know things would have been going on as well in previous government. Like this whole digital transformation agenda is not something that's new by any means. We've been talking about it for a long, long time, and we've seen some things happen gradually. I'm just hoping that we can build on that foundation that has already been set, because there is a general agreement that this needs to happen. So there's no friction, no pushback.
And there shouldn't be,
Exactly. Yeah. And we could just double down and be aggressive on making these things happen. And so that's what I'm looking forward most to, man. Just the processes across the board, across different things. And then that's speaking generally. Specifically, what I'm most excited about, some areas, healthcare. Man,
maybe from an inventory management perspective, and
from an electronic health records perspective.
Yeah, well, that was like the next on the list for me.
Yeah, from an electronic health records perspective, where no matter where you go, you have your personal health record that is, whether it is on a centralized database that is immutable, blockchain probably, that doctors wherever can tap into based on you giving them access, and then as well, I think what would be really incredible with leveraging AI is having an understanding of the different health cases across the landscape locally, and leveraging AI for treatment, right? And so you have the technology looking at cases like collectively and not just the doctors individually. And so they'd be able to make so much more rich recommendations to doctors. And so you're leveraging a collective intelligence versus very individualized care. And what ends up happening is that the doctors miss things so many times.
I was going to say complemented by AI, because I was seeing
driven by AI, complemented by the doctors.
Well, yes, okay, yes. I was giving the doctors, I was giving us humans the benefit of the doubt. But I was watching, I was actually watching a video, I didn't read it.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about diagnosing, where AI diagnosing a scan versus doctors alone versus doctors with AI.
Exactly.
And AI won.
Yeah.
I think they overwhelmingly. Yeah. And doctors equipped with AI were better than just the doctors alone.
And hopefully the doctors with AI are better than just the AI.
No. No.
Shit.
No. I wish I actually had the figures, but no, because I thought when they were reading the results, and they saved the doctors, they saved that for last.
Yeah.
That statistic, that percentage. And when they revealed that the doctors with AI were just better than them alone, it's like, well, okay, AI assisted it should be the standard now. Like, which is kind of scary at the same time, even though we are already cyborgs, right? We already,
no, for sure.
we have these in our pocket,
we
but
just needed planted in us. You know,
exactly.
That's the next step.
And now talking to us, I don't know if you remember the movie. Did you ever see the movie Her?
So long ago.
Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of a a time machine to whatever it would be to look into the future.
We're not
crystal
too
ball.
far. We're not.
No,
too
we're not far from there
at all.
No, to people falling in love with AI and having AI companions as the sole daily connect.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it a lot. Well, we don't necessarily see it here in the West, but I know in Japan, this is going back decades, but there's a term called the hikikomori. Hikikomori, and it's people who become ultra recluses.
Yeah, sure.
And because Japan is so far technology wise, they're leaps and bounds. They've had digital everything and delivery, and you can get everything delivered to your house, and they're people who just live in their apartment. They don't leave.
Yeah.
And I could see that sort of behavior getting worse with AI now, when you can talk to somebody that's not somebody.
And then you pair it with VR.
Well, yes, yeah. And now you literally put it on your I have a VR goggles right here in this box, and you put on the VR goggles, and now you're talking to your friends.
I could see people like having whole lives and eating inside there and thinking that they're feeding their body, but they're not actually feeding their physical body. They're feeding their in-game body. Yeah. And then
it's scary. That's why I also like Black Mirror a lot, the television series, because it's glimpses. It's glimpses. If we let this technology get a little too far, if we let this piece of technology get too far.
It's a brilliant movie series, man. It's actually one of my all-time favorites.
Booker, the writer, the creator is something Booker, Chris Booker. But great. I mean, a few episodes stand out more than others. But I mean, tech, we need it. But then I'm now gonna, I guess, start talking about the ways that we may not necessarily need it. I remember 4 years ago, you must remember when Elon put out his warning that if we let AI, if we don't put restrictions on it, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. And
he's been outspoken and fearful. From what it sounds like. What are your thoughts there? I mean,
justified, man.
Terminator coming for us in a few years.
He made a comment around the kind of reaction that we get when an airplane crashes, and the sort of like review that the FAA does, and globally we want to analyze this or whatever. He said that the negative impact of AI through somebody wanting to leverage it to be a terrorist of some kind. I think he was like, it's like 1,000 airplanes crashing every day, Yeah. And so that actually makes me like really think about what the hell is going on all of a sudden this year.
Yeah, I mean, there was.
No.
With?
The amount of airplane incidents this year.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because it's...
We're in an uptick.
Yeah, who knows?
We're in a big uptick.
Yeah.
We're in a big uptick within the last year in particular.
I mean, I fly relatively a lot. You probably fly, you eclipse me, but by far. But it's scary, bro, when they talk about...
I dreamt about the airplane crash last night, bro. Like this thing is on my mind all the time. Actually, off camera, I was showing you, I look at flight radar.
Yeah.
My groups in school, we talk about this all the time. Like, we analyze crashes, we talk about what's going on. One of my friends, he flies for FedEx. He was saying like he was flying from Europe to Asia, and he could see missiles lighting up the sky. So like this is my world as well that I think about a lot. And so the impact of AI from a negative perspective is far beyond what we can even conceive.
I mean, the two concerns would be people using it for nefarious purposes or malicious purposes. But then what about the stories that you hear? Because now I want to get your perspective on this, where you hear this company, Google or Facebook or whoever, shuts down their AI because the AI started talking to each other in like a more efficient language. that wasn't anything to do with English. It was its own made up language because it was more efficient to communicate between the two AIs. I mean, that's scary.
Extremely.
And there was one more just before I let you kind of dive in there. Let me know what you think. There was they were trying to get an AI to pass a captcha page.
Yeah.
And they rigged up the AI model that anytime it was attempting a process, that in a separate text file, it would type out what it was thinking, so that the engineers could follow what the AI was doing from English human perspective, and the captcha
chain of thought reasoning.
Right, and the AI told the captcha, is like, oh, I'd like to solve the thing, and he said, oh no, I think you're a bot. Right, the captcha's telling the AI, I think you're a bot, and then the AI thought on its own, how can I trick the captcha?
Yeah,
and then it said, I'm going to tell it that I'm visually impaired. And then the AI told the captcha bot, I'm visually impaired. I'm sorry, I'm visually. That's why it may have appeared that way.
Yeah.
And it got through.
Yeah.
And it did that on its own.
Yeah.
That was not part of the parameters by the engineers to lie or deceive. And it came up with that on its own to deceive.
Bro.
I mean,
and so many of our processes are just not ready for this level.
No.
They're built for human interaction. They're not built for a machine outthinking it at scale. And so the potential impact of somebody who is really smart, just their moral compass is shifted in another direction.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about how we prepare for disasters as a human race is only after the disasters occur. Before that, it's all overhyped. Oh, you're overhyping it. That can happen. Da, 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 da. It's only after the plane crashes, they do the analysis and they adjust the regulations. It's only after the car crashes, they do the analysis. It's only after they allow you to smoke cigarettes and advertise it that moms, pregnant women can smoke and saying is a good thing. Is only after they do the analysis is when the adaptations occur and the regulations are put in place,
Reactive versus proactive.
Exactly.
Right.
It's all reactive. And the unfortunate thing in this singular scenario, the impact of this singular technology, innovation, product, to get to there, the impact of what we're going to have to learn from can potentially be far greater than anything we've ever experienced in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet that they say, I could really go for some precedented times.
Yes. I have read that quote. That's that tweet.
Yeah.
It's true.
We are living in ridiculously unprecedented times. Like, so much shifts have occurred in our times. It's just, man.
Like, you wake up and it just feels like the whole world. I mean, you may be going to work. All of that is certain. You're gonna, well, hopefully you make it, God willing, etc. That you make it to work. All of those things are certain, but there is so much uncertainty, and I think that in a way we're kind of removed from it, because I was telling you again before when we were relaxing before the taping started, that it's kind of, there's war and there's society as normal, and there's that duality happening simultaneously on this planet, where there's war total, with bombs falling out of the sky. We're all seeing videos of it, missiles falling out of the sky, and then I woke up and drove past and contemplated if I wanted doubles this morning on my way to my air-conditioned studio.
Yeah.
Passed by a Coke Zero on the way. It feels, I was talking to Peter George last week, and he was saying that he he feels helpless to do anything about what's the situation in Gaza and Palestine and with Israel. And he said that he was tucking his daughter into bed and making sure she had a bottle of water next to the bed on the nightstand. And he's doing that. She's completely safe. And at the same exact time, simultaneously, there are children being buried in rubble.
Yeah, man.
Just a few hours that way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's sad, and it's crazy that that's kind of where we are in this world. It's just one or the other, and it's really all a matter of where you're born, right?
It is a dystopian reality, man. This is exactly what the movies are made of, books are written about. We're living it every day, and every new year it's just something new,
Watching those videos of people relaxing in a lounge in what I think is Lebanon.
Yeah.
Could be northern Israel, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And bombs falling from Iran into Israel. And people getting served their drinks and missiles falling out of the sky, 100 miles south or wherever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's going on now. And that's where it's sad because sometimes I think about, we know that a lot of the wars are driven by, financial gain and greed and those sorts of things. But sometimes I do think about what if there was no war and we put all of that time and effort into enhancing civilization.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have achieved Atlantis again. Yeah, that's another one of my topics of interest.
Yeah.
The lost ancient city of Atlantis.
I mean, there are a few lost cities, man.
Yeah.
There are a few lost cities. Elon talks about the fact that that progress isn't a given. We take it for granted that we make progress as a society, and we just think that it will just happen. But we, as a society, have historically gone through dark ages where we've lost technology, lost progress, and so we need to not take for granted, because it is very plausible that we can go back many years before we go forward, and that needs to be front and center with us. But not very many people sit in that position, really, where they're thinking existentially about life and how they contribute to life and how we're all connected in that kind of way, But to bring it back to the point of what we were discussing, where the negative impact of AI and what it can mean, is that, I think quite frankly, we don't know now what are some of the causes of some of the things that we're experiencing in the airline industry, and then maybe other industries, we begin seeing things happening, and it's only like months or years later we'll be able to correlate and realize that there are nefarious actors behind some of these random upticks or seemingly random upticks, I even afraid to let us go out, because anybody that talk about,
Yeah. I mean, we've been kind of told to be wary of things like quantum computing.
Yeah.
And, being in the kind of the crypto space, I hear it all the time. People say, oh, well, quantum computing will destroy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I said, well, it'll destroy everything else before it reach Bitcoin. I mean, our bank accounts will be done. There'll be no more cell phones. There'll be so when I say they'll probably still have cell phones, but there'll be no privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so way before it reached Bitcoin. So, but it's just, I believe tech is ultimately, grand scheme, good.
Yeah.
It's like you said, there are people that will be undoubtedly nefarious actors. There will be in the system that want to gain something or take advantage of somebody, and they use technology as in a negative way. I mean, it's since the beginning of time, I think,
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like, what's the purpose of building nuclear bombs?
to bully people around. There's not to threaten people.
Say that I have it.
To threaten people.
I know that if I use it, I'll wipe out like And then, yeah, man.
Like I
don't
was,
know.
like I just said, because I just said, since the beginning of time. And then I thought it was like, well, how accurate would that be? But let's just say somebody invents the wheel.
Yeah.
The caveman, whoever it is, invents the wheel, allows them to now move their family and other things around.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody takes that wheel and puts it on a catapult, or puts the wheels on a catapult. Now they have a rolling catapult. So now they're using for something to threaten and scare people, and they're using the technology. So yeah, I guess since the beginning of technology, whatever, if people say the wheel is the beginning of technology, but
Man,
maybe fire.
when I begin to like fast forward and think about where we're heading as it relates to technology, like I always think about the Matrix.
I really
I
can't help but
Matrix.
not.
Exactly right.
It's one of my favorite series.
No, it is my all-time favorite. Ever
Nice.
since I was a kid, man, 1999, the first Matrix, right? And it's one of those movies where as you get older, you begin to understand more. So it has so many layers to it, that you never catch everything on the first 20 times you watch that stuff. You're going to be continuing to realize, hey, this is what's going on. And so the fact that we as human beings are creating machines, of which then the machines become more powerful than the human beings, and the machines then use the human beings for life.
It's a scary cycle.
Bro, this is exactly where we're heading.
Have you seen Battlestar Galactica? I don't mean to jump off Matrix.
No, go ahead. No.
Battlestar Galactica is Battlestar Galactica is a famous series, a sci-fi series where the fall of mankind comes from the rise in AI.
Yeah.
And the cycle, and then the humans leave Earth to go and look for another planet, another suitable habitable planet.
Elon take us to Mars.
And we go there, and after however long, I can't remember how long.
Yeah, hundreds of years.
The cycle repeats itself again because we bring back the technology, and then we, invent AI, and then the cycle repeats itself over and over and over. That's the oversimplified version. If somebody's watching this that knows Battlestar Galactica way better than me, I apologize.
No, but I mean, this is the direction mankind is heading in, man. I think the only chance that we have against this really is that fusion of AI and human beings, and then
like AI equipped.
Yeah, and then what does it mean to be human anymore?
What's the name? Oh, what's that movie? Oh, I'm not going to remember it right now. I can't even remember. But this with Harrison Ford.
No.
Was that Harrison Ford?
Harrison don't do sci-fi.
One of those movies, I can't remember. I'm going to have to look it up after. But yeah, where it's set in the future where some people are robots and some people are human.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like the line has been blurred between who is who and whatnot. But yeah, it's...
well, bro, that is 100% the direction that we're going.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be accelerated within our lifetime. I think within our lifetime, we will see proper humanoids in our lifetime.
I like what Neuralink is doing though.
Exactly.
And we're heading. I actually applied to be for a brain implant, but to be when they were doing the first round of hiring.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such a cool company, and what they were setting out to do. I wanted to go and work on that. Yeah. That was several years, 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But because I like that. I'm also a tech person. I'm an actor and a filmmaker, but I love tech.
Technology. Yeah.
I've always loved tech.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of a nerd in that way. And but yeah, it's the world that we're living in. It's one where undoubtedly people are going to take advantage of other people, and I think technology is going to make it easier. I think that we're heading in a direction where we're looking at 30% unemployment in 10 years because AI is going to take all the jobs. I watched a video maybe late last year, where there was a robot, and this is low hanging fruit sort of thing, but a robot cleaning a hospital, sweeping, mopping, opening the doors to the bathrooms, completely cleaning the bathrooms. I mean, it frees people up to do other things, yes. But I think when we look at the economics of it,
Yeah.
I think that it's a very scary proposition that we're looking at, because there's mass unemployment. It's going to happen. I mean, you know, even in the film industry, Hollywood's preparing for it. There are companies investing in systems that would make AI films easier and more efficient. And now with Google Veo, we're seeing that it's very possible. We have some AI films being developed here with Circle Arm and what Verena Woodusing is doing. And the film looks awesome. It looks great. But then there's the other conversation of how many people are not going to get to work on a film that's being made. Now, not that, you know, they're animated films and they're animators, but AI does then take positions away from people. So we are looking at a future where less people are working. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's going to be a mix of both.
Yeah, bro. That is another massive problem. That conversation is happening at the highest levels.
Yeah.
And so this happens in society all the time as it relates to progress, right? In terms of, you don't, like, how many carpenters do you know anymore, right? Like, certain jobs eventually become obsolete, or to the point where there's just not very many people doing that anymore. And that happens all the time. But what is unique in this scenario is the speed at which things will be gone. All right? And so that is the real problem. And so, so once again, we're thinking existentially. I think, like, this podcast episode is a real existential conversation, right? You know,
it's certainly the second half for sure. It turned out to be.
What happens? What really happens when? And then my question is who then are the consumers? You push into this level of efficiency, for then who to buy?
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, you could do it with no humans involved. Poof, everybody home.
Correct.
So then if everybody's home from everybody's company, then who buys?
Yeah. So is it a situation where we are heading to we're saying who buys, but we're heading into a situation where it's all there is going to be able to do is consume.
Yeah, but where you get any consumption money from?
Well, that's true, because people wouldn't be working, which means that that's why I've always actually been
UBI, Universal Basic Income.
I've always been a fan of UBIs done properly.
Okay, but then
then you're just consuming, and then what is there?
Exactly. Yeah. What do you mean? So if everybody making the same amount of money, then where's the supply and demand? Like, where does it exist if everybody? And how do you determine how much?
I mean, you can still work. Yeah, but that's also true. But you can still work. Well, hopefully, in a sustainable system, at least a bare minimum living wage.
What is bare minimum? Man, I saw this conversation fight on Twitter the other day about KFC workers, and they're not getting paid enough, and people need to advocate for, no matter what job you're in, you should be getting paid a minimum livable wage.
Yes.
All right. And so some people are like, well, no, if you pay people livable wage, then KFC price will go up. And then people are like, are you mad? Like, okay, and all right, you know. And so where is the minimum livable? We don't even have that now, right? You know,
we don't.
People could work full days and still not be able to take care of their life, you know. And so
like, I look at it from, because you've been all over the world.
Yeah,
I've lived in a couple of major cities. Being able to work a couple hours, and that minimum wage, like in the States, that minimum wage can then go and buy you a significant lunch.
Yeah.
Whereas in other places, you have to work a whole day to be able to afford a significant, or, you know, even an above average lunch.
Yeah.
Or even if the same fast food we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $40, $50 for a lunch on the bare minimum side now, which is just chicken and fries. You know, and you have to work. You have to ensure that you have to work, I think, twice the amount of hours to be able to afford that lunch. Versus in the States, in a major city in the States like Miami, you can work half the time and you can afford the same chicken and fries.
Yeah, but then the cost of living in Miami is ridiculous.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. You're getting paid more. So I guess maybe it's just then everybody's having a tough time. I mean, there are lots of places all over the world. But I don't think that AI just makes that, what you just said about livable wages, AI makes that worse.
A million times
A
worse.
million times worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna have machines,
Yeah.
and I mean no disrespect to anybody, but we're gonna have machines frying the chicken.
No, I mean,
the fries.
I mean, bro, you're talking about it.
And then a vending machine just popping it out in front of you.
You're talking about it at like the lowest levels, like, I mean, at every single segment of society. Like, I was telling my lawyer recently about what some inflammatory clauses within an agreement that I was working on are, and asking for his recommendation on it. I didn't have to send it to him to review, for him to tell me. And so,
Yeah.
all
You
right?
just plugged it into
Exactly.
ChatGPT.
So I plug it into a few different models. Quite frankly, I find DeepSeek to be the most analytical of documentation in that regard. So I plug my contract into DeepSeek. DeepSeek goes through the contract, tells me where there are issues that I need to be aware of, potential issues I need to be aware of. Then I take that conversation to my lawyer and say, hey, these are the things that I'm wary of. Here's the contract. Have a review, but I'm already telling you the direction of the things that I'm wary of already. Typically, I would have had to send, he review, he tell me what they are, then come back, me process it, then I say, okay, whatever. Like, I'm a few steps ahead already.
AI assisted.
Yes.
You are AI assisted with ChatGPT. Is that the new slogan? Be AI assisted with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we are
So the point I was making is not just your color workers frying chicken. It is at every level.
Yeah. Lawyers will be, and doctors as well, as we said. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess this is something we could talk about for another hour.
It just feels, when you then think about it in this way, you feel depressed.
Yeah. Let's not end on a bad note. But I mean, thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate the time. And like I said, I'm sure we could probably have this conversation twice as long as we already did.
For sure.
But I know you have other things to get to.
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, bro.
This was great.
It's been good.
Yeah, man.
Good. I really appreciate the time.
Cool.
Cam, kept it in under an hour.
Hey.